that's the thing with Red Rising characters of Pierce Brown does this where it's actually a debate of who's the best Red Rising character. You guys are right, but I don't want you to be. You know, it's...
If Lysander wins, that's going to suck for all of us.
Do it.
I kind of want to go Mustang now.
Oh.
I think Richard voting for Diomedes, he actually made me want to vote for Mustang.
Yes! She could at least be a more effective terrorist, but no. Clip that out of context.
Welcome back, everybody, to another Tutor Ramble episode. I'm one of your hosts, Austin.
I'm your other host, Richard.
We've got a special guest, Phil, from Phil Got Books YouTube channel, an official YouTuber. How you doing?
I'm great, guys. This is a very special moment to be on this with you guys. I've been watching you guys for feels like a couple years, so I'm excited to get into this.
Hell yeah.
So kind of you. We've only been here a couple years.
Yeah, I've been watching since day one. I've actually was subscriber number one. You guys didn't even know.
Oh, damn.
That's
beat us to the button.
yeah.
Phil, we didn't stereotype you because this is all the videos that you post on your channel. This is not stereotyping. Phil is just a bro. Okay.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants some Phil Got Books, some books for dudes, and you can see we're doing a Red Rising bracket tournament for this episode, and there's nobody better than do this with Phil. I would not do this with just Rich because that would be miserable.
No, when it's just us, we have to get in touch with our like more neutral side of like, you know, tier listing. Tier listing is for everyone.
Yeah.
There's just something about brackets that feels it's bro time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's got to be a Red Rising. By the way, if you don't know from the video title and thumbnail, Red Rising character bracket. We'll see who wins. Who's the best character? Is it Darrow? Who knows?
We'll see.
Yeah, we're doing this bracket here. There are 32 characters that we put together here. It's in a random order, so the seeds, it's not like March Madness where I have whichever character I think's the best is number one seed. No, it's completely random. We're gonna have them face off, and we define the character as not who would beat the other in a fight, but as who is the most realized, your favorite character, who you just love to see on the page, and just who feels the most real and developed, and you just love seeing them. That's what, Phil, are we on the same page with that?
Yeah, no. I mean, I feel like it's the character you want to read, the character that gets the juices flowing, and who moves the story along and who makes things interesting. That's kind of how I'm looking at this.
Basically, we're going to be comparing character traumas and which interests us the most. That is what we're doing.
Yeah, that too.
And the way we'll do it, because we have three of us, 2-1 votes, obviously we'll never have a tie. So a character will win and get to the end. So Phil, you guys want to start? Rich, you want to start? Let's do this?
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. We got our face-off here. The first one that randomly put together was Volga or Io? Volga or Io?
All right, boys. You can't do me like this round one. I'm gunning to get Volga to the last seat. I want her to win the entire thing. You can't have her lose on the very first one.
Phil, I feel like we got to stop this one. Come on. What are you thinking, Phil?
I am in full agreement with Rich. I think this is a lopsided victory by Volga. I mean, Volga, I just love reading her, rooted for her every second of the way. Io, obviously an incredibly important character, sparks this whole series in a way, but Volga
I can't believe
so
I didn't.
Heartwarming.
I'm so sorry. I can't believe we didn't say this. We said this before recording, but full spoilers for the Red Rising series. By the way, just spoiler warning here for all of Red Rising, all books released. Sorry,
we're filming this up to Lightbringer, so the books that are out this up to Lightbringer spoilers.
I just noticed we were about to get in. Yeah. Anyway. But
I don't think we spoiled anything technically, so I think everyone's okay for now.
Phil, you love Volga?
Yeah, I love Volga. I mean, I feel like her kind of trajectory as a character to kind of going from almost like a little bit timid to gaining her confidence as we go throughout this and gaining more importance as a character in the story versus, again, I mean, I don't want to make fun of Io or anything, but we just don't get that much time with her at the end of the day. And her story is incredibly tragic, of course, and she's incredibly vital to this story. But at the end of the day, I got to go Volga. I'm team Volga. I'm with Rich on this.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, EO, great catalyst for the start of the story, but ultimately she is just a fridged character. She's the fridged wife that sparks the whole story. There is more intrigue of like starting off the book, Darrow sees her in this kind of like messianic figure type, like just this perfect angel. And then as time has gone on, seeing that she genuinely had quite a few flaws as a person, and like the fact that she sacrificed like her child like, very much deliberately to spurn on this revolution, and maybe is the right decision or not, but that's still, that's something more. That it's one thing sacrificing yourself for a revolution. It's another thing sacrificing your child for it. So interesting character, but yeah, Volga.
Yeah, I mean, you're right to say, Phil, that this is just a blow. I mean, it's almost unfair. Okay, how do you put a character who's there for so much more in page time compared to EO? Who do you guys agree with this? That EO is more interesting. The interesting part about her character is how Darrow views her and his reaction and his connection to EO, rather than just EO on her own. Which I think she's a good character for the chapters we get her, but it's not a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. I actually feel like I really enjoyed reading her, but we don't get that much of her. And it would be interesting to see a whole parallel universe where we do get more of her and some other characters, the one who ends up sparking this revolution. But to Rich's point, it's like she does have a mainstay in the story through the mind and the eyes of Darrow and his learnings of what she did and how she sacrificed her child. I think we learned that in like Darrow learns that in book 2 or 3, and it like just pisses him off and like makes him, want to do some more Darrow stuff again. So it's like she has impact throughout the story, even though she's only on like a few chapters really, where we actually get her communicating with us, I guess, in hearing her talk and be in the story.
Let me get this right. We in the first 10 minutes of this video are fridging EO again.
Good.
She's out
where she belongs, clearly in this story.
So it's 3-0. Volga moves on to the Sweet 16. We'll see her. We'll come back to Volga, see who Volga has to play against next.
I do want to say,
looking good right now.
You did lie to us. You said that it was completely random and you didn't put, the number 1 pick in slot 1. And you really did put number 1 slot in slot 1.
Volga,
best character.
The AI gods knew.
Yeah.
All right.
You know what would have been nefarious if you did 1 Darrow, 32 EO. That would have been a tough matchup, and really actually probably a good matchup.
I mean, I'd still vote Volga. I'll tell you, felt like I had this in our Lightbringer review, but I did before going into it. Like we were at before Lightbringer, Dark Age. Yeah. I was at Dark Age, and in that review said, I'm gonna give Lightbringer a 0 if we get 0 Volga POV chapters. Pierce Brown spurned me again, so it's a 0. I love Lightbringer, but it's still a 0 out of 5. I'm hoping Red God has at least 1 Volga POV. He has to, right? He can't not do that again.
I mean, we have to speak it into existence somehow. And you know, you've been doing your part, Rich, and I'll take on the fight for you moving forward.
Good. We need to start a campaign. He's still working on Red God. He has time to fit one in.
Might be 2 books. We have 2 more chances. He said he might split it in 2, so we'll see.
That's the reason for the split. The next, like, Red God's not going to be it, but the whole second book is going to be
Volga is the Red God somehow.
Volga is the Red God.
It's just Pierce, you really stretched with that one. He's like, Rich said some shit on the internet, and I really had to change this. He started panicking, and Volga's not having a point of view in Lightbringer would have kind of been helpful a little bit, because she had a drastic change in her. What am I saying? This is spoilers. I was trying to. Yeah, she had a drastic change in her alliances, and she was able to, her character, she was able to, she believed in Volsung, God, these names are hard. Her dad, her adopted dad, or real dad, whatever dad, Obsidian dad person that was her dad, maybe adopted. Wasn't it fake? Phil.
It is fake.
Wasn't it a fake dad?
No, I thought it was real.
It's real, Dad?
I mean, again, it's been months since I read it, but from what I remember is it was her real dad.
It is her real dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. I'm trying to remember if that was a whole
Someone's
ploy.
probably
I thought he was a gold.
Oh, Volsung?
I thought he was a gold that was turned into an obsidian.
Wasn't Volga
God,
made
man.
in like a lab using his DNA or something? That's kind of how I remember it.
Phil,
Yeah,
I'm going to trust you on that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think we're all wrong,
I'll
but
tell you, Austin, you shouldn't do that. Yeah, would not trust me.
Let's not look like more idiots. Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, let's just move
and
on.
go.
Yeah.
Okay, we know what we're talking about in this next one. Come on. Cassius Albolona versus Severo Barca. An early
This is a tough
matchup.
ooh, this is a hard one.
Crazy.
Wow.
Oh man, I don't know.
Where are you feeling?
Oh.
If I'm gonna be frank here, I would have said those two would have been in the final four, both of them. So this is an upset of the century. Not an upset, but just a matchup of the century right here. For me, I feel like my gut is telling me Severo, just because of how pumped he made me and how much I laughed in like the first trilogy reading Severo when he comes out with, the Howler, his whole get up, and he comes in and saves the day for Darrow. Just his allegiance with Darrow warms my heart. But then he kind of goes a little psycho for a while when he was leading, and doesn't really know what to do with being a leader. He kind of just acts on impulses and doesn't do it in a way that works like it kind of usually does when Darrow does. So I don't know. I feel like that Severo has my heart because of just his loyalty to Darrow and just his kind of comic relief. Cassius, I also love him. I feel like he had such a character progression where he obviously starts out as a friend, then a foe, and then becomes a friend again. And I don't know, man. I'm just kind of talking through my thoughts, and I said Severo quick, but I feel like I need to mull it over. I might have to take back my Severo right now and let you guys duke it out and then make my decision.
This one's hard for me on the sense of it's basically a battle between first trilogy and second trilogy, or second series. Is because if it was just the first three, Severo all the way. It not even contender. But after the time skip, second series, second era, for me, Severo as a character went downhill for me of like just interest. I don't think he's nearly as coherent. He's not nearly as interesting. I don't particularly like his point of view chapters or
damn.
He's the character that he got annoying, which is wild.
You're annoying.
Like he's kind of an annoying character at a certain point where he wasn't annoying in the first trilogy. I don't know why, but Cassius, he elevates the whole material in the second series.
His relationship with Lysander,
also with Darrow, and then developing just across the board of seeing what he's on that journey of trying to find out what kind of gold should he be, and which is honorable. He has such a very interesting position in the entire universe of being on the outside of the Republic, but still trying to uphold the values that the Golds always preach, but never actually obtain.
But here's the bad thing with Cassius. I love both of these characters. They're both definitely top 10, top 5, arguably, for the series. But isn't Cassius just a less good Diomedes in that way?
Well, no, but that's the thing. Diomedes is
your guy.
But thing is, Diomedes is almost like the paragon. You know what I mean?
Which Cassius has failed.
That makes him less interesting, where Cassius is the reason why he's a much more interesting character is he's trying to become a Diomedes.
Diomedes to me, it's going to be tough when we get to him because I'm going to be defending my boy Diomedes.
Diomedes is great.
Cassius, great character. However, any character who gets the love and respect from Victra gets the respect from me. I mean, Severo was able to court, marry, and have children with Victra. That alone says so much about his character.
Did Severo court Victra, or did Victra just, pick up Severo one day and said, yeah, now you're mine, and then He couldn't fight it.
That's also acceptable. At least they're together. But Phil, between the two here, where's your judgment going to? How do you pick your quote unquote favorite here? What kind of qualities are you looking for what makes the best Red Rising character?
You know what? I guess what Rich just said really kind of did strike a chord with me, where Severo in the first trilogy was such a beast and made me so excited and made me laugh so much. And his character progression, I actually do agree, he did get low-key kind of annoying sometimes and kind of like almost like whiny. But he is, as a 5'6" guy, he is my short king, and he pulled Victra, who's taller than him. I'll forever be in awe of him. And I do think he kind of catches old Severo ways again as we read on in the second trilogy. And then I guess in terms of what you just said, like Cassius or Cassius or Cassius, I guess I never really understand.
Yeah, we say both. Yeah,
it's fine. Yeah. We never get the names right. Yeah. That's just our thing. That it's now it's a gimmick rather than us just being bad.
Well, I'm horrible at pronouncing things too, so I'm in the club. But yeah, I agree. I think his character almost like goes up, turning in from a Han Solo, kind of doing whatever he's doing out in the galaxy to almost dying, even though I never really believed he was dead. He comes back to life. And then once he actually dies, he just drops an absolute bar, my honor remains. That's just like kind of sick. So I feel like for me, it's like kind of a gut check with these two. Who do I think made me want to go back and read again, and who I got excited when I saw them on the page. And I do think I have to give the edge to Severo. I'm going to go with my gut here.
Going with gut. I got to ask you both this question too when deciding. I guess you, because he's decided. So he's going to the Severo train.
I'm on Cassius.
It's up to me.
It's up to you, Austin.
It's up to you. You get to choose.
Here's where my heart is leaning. Both of these characters have been integral since book 1 of Red Rising. If I'm thinking just the first trilogy, I think it's definitely Severo. If I consider the second trilogy, they're both pretty I didn't find Severo annoying, but also Severo and Darrow. Severo and Darrow have more of an interesting back and forth of how they treat parenthood and how they go about fighting this war, and how Severo is actually taking that responsibility as a father much differently than Darrow is, and kind of. The point of side characters and your cast in your fellowship is to also elevate your protagonists in many ways. And I think Severo does a better job at that than Cassius does, even though Cassius does do a good job at that.
He has your parallels as more of a leader in the sense of your moral teacher. Like, how do you? Cassius is constantly dealing with like practicality versus being honorable. And you see Darrow more on the opposite side. He often will sacrifice his morality for the sake of. He'll sacrifice his honor for the sake of practicality, and that's a lesson he has to learn. Where Cassius, almost through and through, will take what he believes is the honorable choice rather than the easy path.
Yeah,
and so he does also have a really good. Dynamic with Darrow.
And I think Cassius's main dynamic is obviously with Lysander, and the ability to make us hate Lysander more as well, going into Red God. But that's the thing with Red Rising characters. Pierce Brown does this where it's actually a debate of who's the best Red Rising character, because each of them fills a critical role to the story. None of them feels superfluous and just, you could replace them with somebody else. They're also needed, and that is why I'm going Severo. Severo's moving on.
Nice. Let's go.
We're going.
That was a tough one.
That was real tough.
Cassius, your honor may remain, but you will not in this bracket.
You're gone.
You're out of here. Yeah.
Next one we have, you were right, Phil. That was a big heavy hitter in the round of 32. One. This one could be a little bit. Let's take our foot off the pedal. This isn't. Oh, actually,
this is an easy one for me.
This is kind of easy for me too. We have Ephraim versus Aja. Who are we picking between Ephraim and Aja?
Phil, where are you feeling? Where's your gut check at?
Gut check is Aja. She is. I just thought, I mean, I was just impressed with her skills, I guess, as a fighter and just as like the muscle, and how it took 4 people to take her down. I think legit, all the main characters who are the best at fighting, it could barely take her down in, a battle. So I feel like Aja's got to be it for me. And I guess the reason I'm saying that is because of how much I feared her when she was on the page. I was like, she can take on Darrow. We look at Darrow as like he's invincible, but like she could take him on and then some. So she was a great kind of, like I said, bodyguard muscle, whatever you want to call her, and just made me think that she could just show up at any time, which she did, and just foil plans with brute force. So I always found that exciting, and I didn't really. I mean, in Iron Gold, I didn't love that book in general. That was my least favorite of the books. And
agreed for both of us.
Ephraim,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a chief reason of why I didn't like that book.
yeah, pretty much. I didn't love Ephraim. He grew on me a little bit as he got intertwined in the Obsidian culture and with Pax and Victor's child. That kind of warmed my heart a little bit and had some moments, but not enough to undo what he did in Iron Gold, I don't think. So I'm going Aja on this.
I'm kind of with you on that. It's more of Aja does have stage presence of her mystique, and her power on the page is always really intimidating. It's always good that we don't have too much information about her, but it does make her more mysterious. And when she does come on stage, like, you could hear a pin drop of like, oh, Aja's here. Crap. Ephraim, the more I learned about him, the less I wanted him on page. I just don't like this character. I was not happy.
We got to agree, though, the best Ephraim scene was his death scene.
Yeah.
The death scene was good. I also very much enjoy when he was incredibly drunk and he led the charge with a broom. And everyone thought he was some badass.
He charged to his death there, wasn't it?
No.
Did he die after that?
No, not that
No,
time.
he survived.
That's 2 separate scenes?
2 separate scenes.
God, I combined them in my head.
No,
I was thinking of the broom scene.
He was all good, and then he went back of I'm gonna go back for Volga.
And that's when
then
his
he
heart
was just gutted.
was taken out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, which spurred me on to going I must have Now here is the counterpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Without Ephraim, we don't get Volga. And Volga's my favorite. Ooh.
Phil, we got to take Volga out next round. I'm just saying. This is going too far.
I think that seems like Rich, that's a stretch.
That's such a stretch. We got to cut this off. I'm going to the vote right now. We're calling tallies. I'm going Aja.
Yeah, I'm going Aja here.
Yeah.
You're going Aja too?
Let's put our heads on straight.
All right,
Come on.
let's shut that down real quick. Okay. All right, let's get.
I have to bank my credibility here because I need to fight for Volga in the last round.
Yeah.
We might have another easy sweep right here. We have Harmony versus Lorne au Arcos. Initial reactions.
How about you start off?
Yeah.
Phil's been starting off a lot here. How about you get?
Now, in my head, I said easy because Lorne has that presence. We're going. We all think when we think Lorne, we think the scene of Darrow beating up Cassius in front of the entire Gold Cast and starting this civil war between them, and basically saying, "I was trained by Lorne. What? He didn't take any students." Not until me. And then all the badass scene of him being trained by Lorne and then having that ability to just demolish. So that's when I think of Lorne.
Away.
Yeah. And so Lorne we don't see much of him other than that. Then we go to his hometown and Lorne kills Tactus. But Lorne dies at the end of book 2, Golden Sun, in the, what's the name of the killing at the end of the book? Phil? Yeah, that's why you're here. You're our fact guy.
I should not be the fact guy.
The massacre at the end of the book. So
I know what you're talking about. I don't know what it's called though.
And with Harmony is a lot longer lasting, where Harmony dies at the end of Dark Age, I believe, with Lyria and isn't Harmony the one that ends
Lyria
up
doesn't die?
No. Lyria is the one that kills Harmony. Yeah.
With the red hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like mine, or they're little like I can't think of what it's called, but they're like little thing that they had going on down there that wasn't good.
This is
their little sad rebellion.
Yeah,
and there, I think Harmony's the one that in the Red Hand killed Victra's baby Ulysses as well. So really hate Harmony. However, this is more difficult because we have a lot more page time with Harmony. She's a villain. Starts off with the good cause of wanting the revolution and showing how the Red Hand turned bad, so it's kind of good for world building. Lauren goes away quick. It's actually difficult in that way, but I'm gonna just put my opinion out there. Then you two take it away. I'm leaning Lauren. He has more long-lasting impression in my head. Just when I think Lauren feels like more, okay, he's a character, whereas Harmony gets outshined by so many other villains. Apollonius, the Jackal, Nero, Atlantia, Lysander, it goes on. And I think of the villains, she's not like the most, it's good for the world, but not, go ahead, guys.
Also, of the villains, she makes, I think, the least amount of sense. Of plenty of the other characters are pretty like self-righteous. They have idiotic views or whatever it is. Like you have these twisted viewed antagonists, and I feel like Harmony starts, like, she develops to a point of just almost nonsensical. You know what I mean? Of like, she's hurting her side more than she's hurting anyone else. And it's like, why are you doing this? Why are you only persecuting the like the whole thing that you're trying to revolt against the golds, and you're barely killing any golds here? Why are you doing any of this? It's, I mean, she's a terrorist. I get it, but she could at least be a more effective terrorist, but no. Clip that out of context. I don't know. It just bothered me so much of she accomplishes basically nothing.
The opposite of her name is what she accomplishes. She creates disharmony. Maybe that's why she's called Harmony. He's trying to show,
I guess so.
Like, she's literally it's ironic in the way that she's not creating harmony. Yeah.
I know she was kind of like, she is a mirror to Lyria, of like how much Lyria has, not anxiety, but just antipathy toward Darrow and all this kind of stuff. And then you see Harmony with the same thing, but just takes it way too far to the point of she's just killing all the different Reds because they're easier to kill. But yeah, no, Lauren at least has an interesting dynamic with Darrow that I found interesting, of how much, Lauren did pick Darrow, but then Darrow pushes Lauren into the war that he doesn't want to be and ultimately puts his family at risk. And so there's this good back and forth between them.
So it looks like we've got 2-0 for Lauren. Phil, your opinion means nothing on this, but jump in. What do you think? Who should win
as
between
it usually
them?
does in my life. But no, I guess to what you were saying, Austin, I think, or what you were getting at, most of what we get from Lauren is almost like his legend. I think of Lauren as like almost like the Michael Jordan of this book. Like he has all like the skills, and we heard all about him, but we weren't necessarily like young enough to or old enough to see him in action.
It's a great analogy.
We get the tail end of we get Wizards Michael Jordan, and then Darrow's MJ and Darrow or Kobe, whatever you want to call him, and we watch him in action. Lauren was the GOAT before Darrow, I know that, so I do feel like he has that impact on the page, even though he's not on it a lot, just his mystery. And then when we see him, he's an old dude. He just wants to chill with his family. It is what it is. And I just absolutely despised Harmony. She was just pure evil to me. I understand she has a character arc, but it seemed, it's like a roller coaster downwards. And just never enjoyed her or the Red Hand. So I got to go Lauren.
All right, a sweep for Lauren. So far, our only contentious one, we had a 2-1 vote with Cassius and Severus. So far, we're on the same page otherwise. Yeah, and that makes sense that one was the one to do it.
Yeah, it should.
Okay, the next one we have is Volsung Fa versus, here's what I did. Since I could only fit 32 into this bracket, I had to combine Cavex and Daxo Altelemanus, so the father and son. That duo, just the Telemanus family, not Pax, but father and son duo. So they get a little cheating, but I didn't include Sophocles. That would put them like obviously number one. So I kept it to them versus Volsung Fa. What do you guys think? Who should win between these two? 3 technically.
I mean, I'll start us off here.
Yeah.
If it without Lightbringer, Volsung Fa. You know what I mean?
Just Dark Age?
Just Dark Age? 100% Fa. Ooh, what presence, what mystery, just this monster of a character that you have to
speaks in bold.
Yeah. Loved
the
it.
audiobook was crazy with him.
Oh yeah. Then Lightbringer happened and way more lame. Way more lame. Just very much a disappointing villain and very boring to me. Of just, it's this guy basically gold pretending to be this.
Was it Atlas that had the plan, or what? Had the plan
Atlas's
together?
plan and Buddy to like transform him into an obsidian, and then this obsidian god, all this stuff, and then just his voice is kind of boring, and then by the end he's just kind of hiding from Darrow. I don't know.
Clang.
He just doesn't even. Yeah, no.
Phil, do you concur with that?
Yeah, underneath all that, like, I'm the biggest obsidian in the world with a metallic neck. He's just like Jimmy Buffett in real life. He wants to just be on the sand with this, sand in his toes on the beach, and he just wants to retire and, listen to his music and whatever. I have a request. Make
a sports or a music analogy for every character going forward. It works so well.
Crazy. It was crazy. I get it, Volsung. I love the beach too, but you don't got to be like this crazy death machine to get there. But
you think
so
he could accomplish his dreams in slightly less bloodthirsty manner,
Yeah, notch it down a little bit. For sure. But yeah, I thought Volsung Fa, like you said, the bold on the page, the voice actor, the terror whenever he came on, his mystery too. You didn't really know what his deal was and if he was a real thing or whatever for a while. But yeah, I guess once you get the unveiling, it is shocking. So I guess that's interesting. But yeah. I guess that's where I stand on Volsung Fa.
Where's both of your votes going for this? Are you both saying because we didn't talk about Kavix and Daxo at all? You just
I don't even just need to say anything about. I'm voting for Kavix purely on the dislike of Volsung Fa.
Okay,
that's my vote. But yeah.
And you can tell us that Sophocles isn't included, but we all know that he's included. You're not gonna not have Sophocles jump on his shoulders out of nowhere. So
that's fair.
He's gonna sneak in there, especially if there's two of them. Might as well throw Pax and Thrax in there, but
why not?
At this point, get the whole Telemantis clan.
Well, I think the case is when we talk in the Sweet 16, we'll talk about Kavix and Daxo more. But it seems like there's so much Volsung Fa. Hey, and the thing I do agree with is of the villains again, Harmony was one of them, but Volsung Fa, villain territory, and Lightbringer was, I was more excited with the Apollonius Minotaur battle with Darrow at the beginning than I was with the Volsung Fa at the end, which might be a little controversial because I know a lot of people love the Clang Clang scene and how epic that is for Darrow, but I think it's more epic on Darrow's end than it is like, look at Volsung Fa. So I'm in agreement. Let's give that a 3-0 sweep for Kavix and Daxo.
Yeah, we'll talk more about them in the
16,
Yeah.
Next we have is Fitchner versus Pax Au Telemanis. So we have the last Telemanis here. Who wins between and it's very appropriate because these two, one survives 2 books, the other survives 1 book. So
is this even really a contest?
Yeah, this is a blowout too.
It's Pax.
Aside from the fact that Darrow names everything Pax after Pax dies, he names his ship, names his kid. If Darrow had a cat, he'd name it Pax. His favorite car, he names Pax. He loves Pax. I get it. So I love Pax too. He was a nice guy. He was a strong guy. It is also, but I think. Oh, sorry. You can go, Rich.
Oh no, I'm just jumping in here of like, how insulting is that to like all of his other friends that have died? That doesn't name anything else after any of the other friends. He clearly has a favorite dead friend.
No Roke, no Tactus.
No, there's no ship named Roke. He's not naming his kids after. No, it's only Pax.
You know what's kind of touching about that too is because Pax was one of the, obviously others died in Red Rising, but he was one of the ones to die before everything changed, before Darrow had to get more gray with obviously Roke betraying him and Tactus being Tactus. Already Tactus in book 1 was not good, but Pax was has no. You can't look back at Pax and have the history to be angry at Pax. This is maybe a bad analogy. This is why we need your music and basketball analogies. But JFK, for example, people will always look in history as him as a young man. You'll always look at JFK. You'll never think of JFK as old. Like your image is, okay, he was the young, good-looking president who was tragically shot. Like, right? You'll think of that with JFK, but you didn't have the rest of history to taint the view of somebody. Whereas with Pax, he was just perfect the whole time. You're just thinking Pax lives in your head when the world was good. All we had to do was beat up some golds in the pits here. We didn't have to think about this galactic war of gold's dividing and reds upright, and then all the death that leads. Pax was there. He was a good boy from day one. Best boy. He's the best boy of this book. Pax is him.
Kind of.
I can't wait to have Pax versus Volga. I'm so ready for it.
It's not even a contest, but that's fine.
Are we all going Pax here?
I mean, okay.
So I
anything for Fitchner?
We do have to talk about Fitchner. Yeah.
I mean, he's pretty important as well.
Yes.
Kinda. It's kinda needed.
You know, my one thought on Fitchner here is awesome character, lovely. The reveal of him being the head of the rebellion and being Severo's father, epic, cool. Since we're talking about realized, fully developed characters, like who is your favorite character? He's great. However, I think of him as that Haymitch-esque character with Hunger Games. So if I was to say between Pax does his character caricature and archetype slightly better than Fitchner does his archetype, if we're to call them that. That's my 2 cents. What do you guys think?
So I actually Sneaky never watched the Hunger Games, so I don't get that reference, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I guess I mean, if I'm going with my gut, which I feel like a lot of this is, I do lean Pax, but obviously Fitchner has his importance. Him being Severo's dad is just something I didn't expect. Him being Ares, I didn't expect. So he did have a lot of, impact on the story. And, even if I didn't really love him throughout the first book, a lot of it, I just got to go Pax. I don't really have much reason for it other than, like you said, he kind of is like the musician who dies when they're 27 and we're like, look how great they were, and don't have the rest of the years where maybe he would have turned heel or something. Who knows what Pax would have done? But we didn't get that. We just got like him as a good guy. So I like that. And I feel like we need more positivity in these books. These books can get pretty dark.
Yeah.
The one note, and I'm still voting Pax, but the note of difference between Pax and Fitchner, I think their legacy I think Fitchner's legacy is more interesting on the page than Pax. Like Pax gets to be around because, Dare names his child after him. He names a ship after him. He names all his things after him. But Fitchner's legacy as Ares and what that means for both Darrow and Wolf Boy. Severo's character.
You knew that you're just degrading him at this point.
Dying to say Wolf Boy.
Phil, that's not acceptable.
That actually was a blank.
I know.
But that's actually a very interesting legacy that he leaves behind, and more impactful, at least to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather than just like a name drop of like, oh, that was a good guy back in the day. Fitchner's actually a bit more interesting.
Agreed. But are we all going sweep for Pax here?
Yep.
We're going Phil sweep. Okay. We got 3 for Pax. There we go. Our next matchup. Ooh. Oh, baby. I forgot to share this. There we go. Okay.
I can't wait to see it.
Lysander Aulun.
This is
versus Apollonius Alvalirath. Oh, boys. We have two antagonist characters. How are we taking this? Phil, you got to start us off.
I mean, I feel like I know my answer with this one. I'll just kind of explain, and I'll hold my answer to see where you guys are at. But obviously Lysander, just well, we get so much of Lysander from when he was just a wee boy and, used as kind of a negotiating tactic, to him growing up with Cassius and being his right-hand man. And we're hoping that Lysander can kind of be a good guy. Cassius is trying to mold him into a good young boy who does some sort of right and doesn't live by the gold standard that they always live by. But obviously he turns into the most despicable human being, and a formidable foe for Darrow, begrudgingly. I'll never forget that chapter where Lysander's describing his battle in depth and like how heroic he was, and then you turn the next page and it's Darrow and he's like, we fought off some light resistance, or we brushed off some light resistance. Yeah. So like I wish Lysander stayed in that like little like weakling state, but he does grow and he does become. He's very smart. He knows how to strategize. He knows how to politic with it. Atalantia, marrying her and doing everything right from the bad guy perspective. And then I guess from Apollonius, I just think that guy with the whole deep grave thing and just his kind of presentation that we see where he's just like this kind of poetic, sing-songy guy who's just a beast. He's kind of like two sides of the spectrum. And the way he talks, it just like flies off the page. It's so different than everyone else in the book, the way, reading it. So I think he's just such a unique character that if I want to choose the one I like to read, I think it's pretty obvious. It's Apollonius, the Minotaur. But I feel like for the story, you got to go Lysander.
He is Tactus's brother, right?
Sorry?
Apollonius, isn't he Tactus's brother? Do I have that right?
Yes. Yeah, they're all crazy.
Yeah, just checking. Yeah. But you said you have to go Lysander because more so importance to the story?
I mean, obviously. And he does grow into be a formidable foe for Darrow, a foil. And I can't wait for Red God because of that reason. And yeah, I got to go Lysander in this, unfortunately.
What do you think, Rich?
If we're just talking about like stage presence, yeah, Apollonius, 100%. Everything you said there. He's definitely the more fun character to read. But yeah, Lysander actually is an incredibly interesting character. Especially, he was my favorite part of Iron Gold, where he actually genuinely had a very interesting perspective, and you see this path where, because you do see all of the downsides of the Republic, of how much, the unfortunate reality with Red Rising is the Republic goes like, okay, yeah, we're going to set up a government where everyone is equal and fair. But then, of course, the Golds rise to the top because they live longer, they're stronger, they're smarter, they're fast. They are genetically like better. And of course, they're going to rise in whatever like fair system of government. And Lysander looks at that as going like, okay, this is our spot. We're supposed to be the shepherds. And that's I guess the more moral Gold position. You see like, okay, that's the path he's going down. He sees all the problems that with the red hand, all these different revolts. And he sees all the stuff that Darrow has done, going like, these guys aren't the morally like righteous ones. And then he just starts going down he starts making the easy choice, and just he starts slipping and he doesn't see it. And it's kind of interesting of where he tries in the very beginning to be moral, but when he's faced with harder decisions, he takes the expedient answer and he doesn't see it. He doesn't see how he is doing very similar things to what he criticizes Darrow about. Like I think for me, one of the interesting parts of his character was the moment where he is shocked and just, he's horrified with Darrow's decision to use the weather maker god thing on the planet.
Oh,
the terraformer,
the storm gods?
God.
Yeah.
Storm god. Yeah.
And he's horrified, shocked. Oh, how terrible. And yeah, ultimately was like, why do you think it was there in the first place? Like, it's your mother. Your mother's like, your grandmother.
Octavia, right?
Octavia kept it there as a weapon. Like, for this specific reason. Like, he's willing to slaughter all these people, but using this beautiful machine for killing is so terrible. It's why Darrow is like, I would never do that. And then, of course, So, yeah, no, he's a far more fascinating character than the Minotaur, even though the Minotaur's more fun.
Yeah, I agree with what you guys said. And to put Lysander in that category of from obviously the first trilogy, he was 10 years old, right? He was a young kid. And now we see in the second half of Red Rising how he is basically, if a Gold was picking this up in the Gold universe and reading the book, the second half of Red Rising would be their version of Red Rising, going, yeah, Gold Rising. Come on, let's take down the Reds who have now up revolting. And Lysander has this nostalgia of the time when he was a kid looking like, hey, things were stable and good. And all of a sudden now there's killing everywhere. And he's starting to, he's looking back at what was and going, I want that again. And so Lysander he's got to go forward with this one. Even though Apollonius, I would want to read his dialogue for an entire book. Just give me that constantly. Man, you know what? Just out of respect, I'm giving him my vote. I know you guys are voting Lysander. I'm voting Apollonius. He's just so, the Minotaur has the best lines.
Yeah, he does.
I think back to that fight in Lightbringer against Darrow, and you could hear his cadence by reading the lines. You just know what he sounds like. It's so cool. But you guys are going Lysander?
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right, we're splitting here. Let's go, Apollonius. There we go.
You want to switch the screen?
Oh, yep. There we go. I've been in charge of switch. Okay. There we are. Yes. So Lysander wins that 2-1. And our next
I'm glad
matchup,
the Minotaur got one there, though. I'm glad you tacked one on for him. He's a great character. It was just a tough matchup, tough matchup for the Minotaur.
Exactly. And now we have his brother Tactus versus Sephi. Okay. What are we feeling here?
Okay, I didn't remember Sephi for a second there, so
I think we know who you're voting for. Thoughts here, guys?
I don't love either of these characters, to be honest. I mean, I know Sephi's probably a better one, but Tactus is obviously the worst in the first book from what he, kind of, I won't get into it, but what he tries to do, and he's just kind of despicable in a lot of ways. And then he does turn to be a little bit of a good guy in a way, and has some more redeemable qualities, or at least like glimmers of maybe being redeemable, but ultimately isn't. So he's kind of the reverse of what we said about Pax. It's like, okay, he could have been good, but he didn't get that chance, so he's a bad guy. And I mean, Sephi, honestly, like off the top of my head, I can't even think of a ton of things about her outside of her being Sephi the Quiet, and obviously being in control of the Obsidians when Pax and Electra go there. But I guess I'm gonna need a quick refresher on Sephi, because right now I'm drawing a blank on.
Yeah, my refresher is Tactus is getting 3 votes, and that we're submitting that score. Okay. but actually, any other? Oh shoot, I clicked on the wrong one. Whoops. There we go. But actually, with Sephi, to give some background, she is Sephi the Quiet, and she is the one that Volsung Fa takes down when taking control of the Obsidian. Sephi Sephi didn't want to help with the war against the Golds, was having the Obsidians stay separate, and didn't want to be involved, and was keeping them as a third party of sorts, and who knew which side that the Obsidians were actually going to join, right? That's basically the position they were in. And I think you make
they wanted to profit off the opportunity of the war to have their own planet.
Yes.
That was basically, they were always promised their own home world and never got it, and were constantly pushed into another war.
Yeah.
And they're using this opportunity now the Republic is weak to take their own planet and now have their own home world. Sephi clearly is not like antagonistic toward the Republic, because she wouldn't join the Golds to fight the Republic. So like, I think that it's why Mustang was not particularly afraid of all, like, everyone was like, oh my God, the Obsidians took over Mars. And she's going like, it doesn't matter that much. Like, we gotta priorities, people, priorities. Like, Sephi's not gonna like attack us, but let him have that for now. We'll work it out. But yeah, so I don't know, just fine character, I guess.
Does Tactus take the edge for you both because
more interesting scenes with Darrow? I mean, he made Darrow
the whipping scene in Red Rising, the first book.
Yeah.
So also the scenes with him and Lorne, like it, better character.
Let's do it. So we are confirming that 3-0. We're giving it to Tactus.
Maybe not better character, but just has better scenes. Like ultimately has better scenes in the entire story.
I'd agree. Yeah. Phil, you're in agreement?
Yeah. Like what Rich said, Sephi kind of was just like a holding pattern with her, and kind of wasn't that interesting. I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So Tactus.
Lock that in. Okay. Next one. We have Quicksilver versus Darrow. Well, what an unlucky matchup for Quicksilver. I know maybe some people I don't think he's going to be our top pick. I think that it'll get contentious when it gets into the Elite Eights territory.
Mm-hmm.
Darrow's not just going to sweep this for sure, but it's Quicksilver's fun. Quicksilver's
great. I enjoy Quicksilver quite a bit.
Quicksilver has the answer to the dilemma. It's get the fuck out.
Yeah, he did have the right answer.
Quicksilver says, let's this whole thing going on? No, let me just create this little bubble and go over there.
Well, no, he basically said, like, this whole color system sucks. It's all awful. Let's make us humans and I'm going to put them over there and hopefully everything will work out.
How do you think Pierce Brown came up with? He was like, I want a really gay capitalist to just shoot out into space. Like, he's just like, I'm just, this is and then he just has Quicksilver with is it Mateo? He just like, I just imagine Pierce going down and being like, yeah, this one's gonna slap. And he's just, and so you have Lysander and Darrow during the whole bickering, while Quicksilver created a utopia of sort. We don't know. Maybe it won't be utopia, and eventually the humans will go through the whole cycle again of war, and who knows, like another system will develop there. But as far as the three options go, Phil, are we off base here? Does Quicksilver have the solution?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I respect it, just like getting out of there. Yeah, I mean, what Rich said. But I mean, this. Yeah, he is an interesting character. It's kind of unfair to him for being matched up to Darrow. But unfortunately, like his name, he's out of this tournament quick.
Ah, nice. Hey,
I just do love that he gave it I feel like the way to describe it is, Quicksilver was integral to the revolution and the development of the Republic, and he gave the Republic the old college try. And then it was like, this sucked. My entire life's work is basically garbage. So I'm gonna was it me that was wrong? No, it's just all the people suck. And so we're just gonna go over here now.
We had to talk about Quicksilver because we know Darrow's moving on, right? Are we voting Darrow?
Of course.
We'll talk more. We'll talk more Darrow later. I assume Phil we'll get some licks in, but we're going Darrow.
Yeah.
Do you want me to switch the pages for you?
I got it. Yeah, no problem. So boom, Darrow moves on, and now we can get on to a juicy Victra versus Romulus. Phil, how much do you remember about Romulus?
I mean, I remember a little bit about Romulus, but I guess my first instinct with Victra is that she's just like a ride or die. And I absolutely respect that with Darrow through the tough times. Her and Darrow's kind of awkward, like will they, won't they relationship sometimes is interesting, where she's just trying to like smooch Darrow and he's not really feeling it. That's an interesting little tidbit, especially when his best friend's Severo, her husband. But that aside, Victra is just a very competent, obviously gold, very competent fighter, smart, and then her story with Ulysses was heartbreaking, and I feel like that was a really like big turning point with her character, just going like sicko mode after that, and just being pissed off, and kind of her and Severo's transformation after that. I am a big fan of Victor. I didn't start as one, so I feel like I guess I'll give Victor some flowers right there, because Darrow won't.
So do you agree with that? Were you a fan of Victra from the start, or like Phil, did you warm up to her over time?
I mean, I liked Victra far more at the start, and then she started to get on my nerves in somewhat of a funny way in Iron Gold and Dark Age. Like, to some degree, it's honestly kind of funny, of all of her dialogue scenes with Mustang, of just like, Victra does not belong in the Republic at all. She's there, like, if it wasn't for Mustang and Darrow.
Severo.
But Severo's there because of Darrow. But the point is, like, she doesn't belong. She's there purely because of her friend. She doesn't agree with any of it. Like, she's like, yeah, the whole Republic thing is complete, like, crock of nonsense. But you're in charge, so fine.
You're my friend.
You're my friend, so I'll
she's a ride or die. That's what I like about her.
This is a bro list. I mean, Victor is the bro of all bros here.
She is the bro of all bros. But also, is it a kind of a feeling of, she was like, hey, I'm going to go, Darrow is the top dog right now. Like, he is the top gold. That's who I'm going for. I'm turned down. All right, who's number 2 in that hierarchy? Severo.
No more Severo slander. No more Severo slander. He's my short king, and he deserves Victor in every way.
Her whole scene, all of her stuff with Ulysses was incredibly tragic, but also all the scenes before that stuff of how she dealt with Lyria and how she could not give Mustang like 5 goddamn minutes to, do an investigation.
Oh yeah, I remember that now. Yeah,
it's just like, Victra, chill, for like, please don't cause like an intergalactic incident for just 5 minutes. Could you please? But yeah.
Versus Romulus, I think we all remember his death scene the most.
Oh yeah.
In Iron Gold, where he's walking out to try to get to the thing that's, I'm forgetting what was he he was trying to get to the
it's like a monument that they all do, and he gets 10 paces from it.
Yeah.
Which isn't that close, right? Like, he doesn't get that close. Wasn't that a thing? It's like like other people have gotten closer, and he kind of dies in a very modest way, kind of how he lived.
He got, I think he was in the top like 10 percentile. Like, he got pretty far, but they were like, now a couple people got further,
and it's
but he did well.
He did well, but also the lesson to be learned from it of that was his goal to get to it, but he had his whole speech as he like speaking out loud, which cost him his several steps. Like, he was, he should have just kept his mouth shut, and he probably would have got there. So it's what do you value? I was about to ask,
what was the meaning of that? And thank you, Rich. You just kind of reminded me.
I think it was the whole difference between honor and your goal. So he had his honor to be able to, like, had this whole speech, and he wanted to go out in an honorable way, but he didn't accomplish the goal. He fell short. I think that was kind of maybe the lesson or
meta-analysis. Yeah. Looking into it. Yeah. Where are you guys going with your vote? How would you like it to go? Victra or Romulus?
Victra. Duh.
2 polar opposite people. But yeah, Victra.
Victra sweeps that one. And we've got, our next is Dancer versus Nero Augustus. I know Rich has a vendetta against Dancer.
Yes.
You do?
I think Dancer is actually like a bad character in the second subsequent series. But I will acquiesce, let you guys talk first.
Now, Phil, what are we thinking? Do you have that same disdain for Dancer, or are you more neutral or positive?
I understand it, obviously, because Dancer in the first series, I feel like, was seen as kind of the good guy. And the second series, he has that kind of back and forth with Mustang and his own kind of agenda. So I do agree with that, but who was the other one? Nero Augustus?
Yes, Nero.
Okay. Him, on the other hand, I feel like he was a kind of like a, I'm just drawing a blank, guys. I think you guys need to go ahead here. I'm trying to think.
Phil, I knew exactly what you were going to say.
I have a scene with Nero in mind.
No, you were going to say Nero is kind of like your Freddie Mercury, right? You were going to make an analogy. I have no idea where I'm going with this, but I was. You were going to say.
Remind the folks at home, Austin, who was Nero?
Nero is Jackal and Virginia's dad, and he is the one who brings Darrow under his wing after he wins in the first book, wins the games, and then is now an Augustus by last name. And Nero ends up dying at the end of Golden Sun. To me, just to give you guys some quick thoughts, or maybe to start a conversation on Nero, he was more of that. You presented as the bad guy. He was presented as, it's Nero Augustus. He's powerful. He plays all the cards, but really his son was the twisted one, the sneaky one you had to really watch out for. And so Nero was more of your figurehead who seemed powerful, but that just makes the Jackal look even more nefarious and evil. So Nero, to me, I remember his speech that he gives in Red Rising, where he's talking about the decadence of society and how you need these games because you are all turning weak, you are all privileged, and you need to get hardened. Essentially that and why they have the games in Red Rising. And so I love Nero as a character in that way. He was just a cool antagonist who also builds up your other antagonist. You think he's the one, but no, he's not. His twisted son is. So that's Nero for you. And I mean, I like Nero enough to vote him over Dancer. So
I'm with you there.
I don't hate Dancer, but you do.
Okay. Yeah. Here's the my problem with Dancer in, Era 2 or whatever, the second series of Red Rising, is in the beginning, him voting against Victra is put at the point of view of, hey, the red, we've been fighting this fight, that we've been fighting this war for over a decade now.
Yeah.
We want and it's Reds that are dying en masse. We want to settle for peace. Too many Reds are dying, and that's what the Reds want. I'm voting for them. And even at the face of clearly the Golds are manipulating. The minute they we're on the verge of victory, and he decides nah, let's stop. And then he's shown that, oh, no, actually, look, the Golds are manipulating us by holding it. The turning point for him was not, oh, look, this is actually the Golds' plan. It wasn't the Golds on Venus's plan. It was that they were trying to blackmail him personally. And the fact that was happening turned him. And I'm trying to remember the actual context, but it was a personal decision, not a moral one, because ultimately the moral position of his did not change. He still wanted to sue for peace, but because they were personally attacking him, he changed his mind.
I wish, Phil, do you remember the scene that Rich is talking about where Dancer initially was voting against or not wanting to continue to attack? Was it Venus or wanting to finish the war? Dancer saw basically it was 10 years of war, and Dancer and others wanted to stop, whereas Darrow just wanted to finish it, right? That was the debate. Phil, so you remembering that? Do you remember Dancer's position there, and any thoughts on that politicking?
Can't remember much specifics about his thought process there, to be honest with you.
Basically, the nefarious organization, which is not the Red Hand, but it's the other one, I believe. Was it the Red Hand?
So which one?
What's the one that was controlled by Venus?
By Venus?
It was the whole plot of Iron Gold.
The Syndicate, right?
Syndicate,
Syndicate, you got it, yes.
Yeah.
Basically, the Syndicate had leverage on Dancer because Dancer is gay. The rest of the colors are all okay with it, but because the Reds were propagandized in a certain way for to prioritize procreation, they were propagandized to like, hey, homosexuality bad. And so in the broader context, it's acceptable, but to his own people, it's unacceptable or just frowned upon. I don't think they're like that homophobic. It's just more of like a you. I don't know. Anyway, point is that was held over his head.
Mm-hmm.
And even though he was shown so much evidence that the golds of Venus were, their choices of peace was all false, and all this stuff is like, they're clearly just trying to beat us. Like, why are you, like, they're not going to let this alone. And he's like, it doesn't matter. We need to try for peace anyway. But then the syndicate they then show proof of, hey, look, the syndicate are going to try and blackmail you. And he's like, oh, now I'm going to vote to, fight the golds again. I'm like,
to that,
I don't know. I did not like it.
We said that in our Dark Age review, and I remember seeing this comment that got upvoted by a lot of people. I'll read what they said, because you said it in our Dark Age review, and I didn't remember the scene super well. I kind of just accepted it. It's like, oh, that makes sense. Whereas you've had a problem with it. And so this was what their retort was. They said, this is from Demonic Grub 1025. So this person said this. So just wanted to put this out there. The way I read Dancer's change of mind, he was under the impression that the Republic could form a peace with the Ash Lord. Maybe not a lasting one, but one that would give them time to clean up their own mess internally. The reveal of the manipulation told him that the Golds were never going to actually give them that time. Either it was going to be outright war, or such toxic manipulation of the senators that the Republic would never function. So he chose war and chose to trust Darrow. Dancer wasn't given much screen time in the new series, but I have suspicions that it was agonizing him to be against Darrow, particularly when it came to abandoning him on Mercury. So all it took was evidence that his plan wasn't going to work, and he was on board. That's that retort. Any thoughts on that?
I guess fair enough. I just did not like the personal element of it. It wasn't because I think there was plenty of evidence before of like, really, you believe the Golds are going to let this alone? Really? I found that just kind of ridiculous. But because it's personal element to me.
But that makes it an interesting character, at least. Like, it's even if it's vindictive or personal, right?
Maybe.
But I think more so why I might have forgiven that thought process is it from Morningstar to Iron Girl is like a 10-year time jump. Mm-hmm. So I'm imagining here Dancer from where we leave off in book 3 and Darrow where we leave off in book 3. It's Revolution. It's somewhat successful because, okay, then what's the aftermath of that? But Decade of War, I could see how you're just going, when is this actually going to end? 10 years now. The last battle we had said that was going to be the last push, or just constantly going, how are we ever actually going to end this? So I guess the thing with Dancer versus Nero, because that's who we're voting between, Dancer or Nero Augustus. You're clearly going Nero. Or sorry, yeah. You're going Nero.
Nero based on the speech in Red Rising alone.
Okay, awesome. And Phil, did you have any thoughts? Sorry, we were jumping on there because you said you didn't have much thoughts about
fine.
Nero and Dancer. You seem like you don't care about either of them.
I mean, Nero, I feel like is a little more not impactful, but I think I agree with Richard. I think I'm going Nero because he was kind of like a boss gold in kind of the first series, and the Augustus versus Bologna house war, and just that whole intrigue was really cool to me.
I'll jump on that 3-0. I don't mind Dancer, but Nero Augustus, he just cool presence, cool start to the series. Let's lock that in. And now we have Atlas Aura versus Pax Augustus. Oh.
Where are you feeling this one, Phil?
Atlas. I just feel like he is a very interesting character. And obviously a lot of what's being done is his doing behind the scenes. Like we just talked about with like Volsung Fa, like he's just a mastermind, and also is like when he's in battle, he can keep up with the best of them. He's just incredibly, I don't want to say fearless. He's crazy, I guess is probably the best way to say it, the way that he fights. And he has that reputation, but it's interesting to know that like when you see him on the screen or on the page rather, he kind of talks like obviously with like a slippery tongue in a way, but like he's not just a crazy cuckoo guy that you get when he's fighting someone. And I thought that was interesting to see that he's just a very intelligent person who's pulling some strings.
Yeah, he's a character where, compared to many other golds that use cruelty for the sake of cruelty, of like they just have twisted heart. Like, the Minotaur is cruel because he enjoys it. That's, he enjoys that kind of twisted stuff. Atlas is doing it purely as a war tactic. He's cruel because it's effective, not because he particularly likes it, which makes him more of a interesting villain in this context, because we don't have too many of those people.
No. Yeah, I mean, I've got to clearly vote for Atlas just for the fact that Pax Augustus is the second, maybe third best Pax. I mean, I'm pretty sure Darrow named his underwear Pax as well. So I think I'm going Pax Telemanus, then Pax Augustus. So just for that fact alone.
Wait, which one is Augustus now? I'm trying to remember.
Oh, it's Darrow's kid.
Oh, yeah, because they're the Augustus. Yeah. No, we don't have enough of him really to judge.
Yeah, I mean, we're going.
He has spunk. He has spunk. That's for sure. But
he's got that regular teenage angst of, screw you, Dad, for running off and fighting a war.
He just wants to ride a bike with his dad. The poor kid. He just like wants to hang with his dad and play catch, but Darrow's always off working. So, I mean, I gotta go Atlas.
Yeah.
Is it Electra, Severo, and Victra's kid who has, I think, a little more spunk than Pax does?
Electra's cooler.
She's got some spunk. All right, we're going Atlas 3-0, and we've got a couple more in our last round here before we go Sweet 16, and we have none other than the Jackal versus Roke Owl. I don't know how to say that, but Fabi. Okay, the Jackal versus Roke.
Does this include the Abomination too?
I mean, no.
I don't think it should.
No,
I don't think it should either.
No, because they're not the same.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay, how we feeling, Phil? Fill us in.
I think the Jackal is just incredibly like I want to see the Jackal on screen.
I knew I liked this guy.
I just feel like it's like an iconic like bad guy. He is obviously one of the golds who likes to be violent for violence sake. He takes it a step further than everyone else. He has the slipperiest of tongues. I don't know. I've used that saying twice, but he's got incredibly
you said slipperiest twice in this pod. That is wild.
Yeah, he's got a real slippery tongue.
3 times.
And he, he, to his kind of credit, like he is almost in the original trilogy, he's almost like thrown to the side and in a way, and going from being the guy who's about to win the the university, and then making kind of a name for himself in the media interwebs and just kind of staying in the mix, and then befriending Darrow kind of and turning on him. And I just feel like the Jackal is the iconic villain in this series when I think about Red Rising. And it's cracked me up when the Abomination started bumbling in again. I was like, this guy again? We got the Jackal again?
You're going, it's like, are you going Jackal over Roke? It seems like you're okay.
This is not even fair.
I mean, Roke is fine. And he puts up a fight, and it's cool to see him become kind of formidable in terms of fighting battleship warfare, but ultimately I don't know, he was kind of a little bit sulky with him and Darrow's relationship, and it did kind of break my heart. Like, he just wanted his friend back in a way, and Darrow was always just too busy. He's kind of like the grown-up version of Pax in a way, except for Roke takes it to extremes to end his life. But he does put up a little bit of a fight, so I'll give him credit for that, but he's no match for the Jackal.
I kind of want to save my thoughts on Jackal because Jackal's moving on. I want to save this for the next round.
We'll talk about it, but
he might have a tough fight next one. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Roke versus
almost
Jackal?
Nothing in the entire everything that Pierce Brown has written honestly comes close to book one Jackal cutting off his own hand.
You got to pull that off when he has an actual foe to beat.
Yeah, no.
Because it's not even worth it using that against Roke.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
save the good Jackal talk for like when he has an actual person.
An actual fight? Yeah.
He's bulldozing Roke.
Yeah, no, not even close.
Okay, we're all in agreement. Because I know we're going to talk Jackal again if he's moving on. So anything you want to say on Roke, because we're saying bye.
No.
Roke.
I need nothing.
Okay, Phil, you got us enough with Roke's point of view. We agree.
That was an easy one.
Okay, Octavia Owloon versus Ragnar. Oh,
actually, competitive one. This is interesting. I mean,
okay. Is it fair to say this? So Ragnar hit the feels. Ragnar was great. Ragnar also felt like he was the replacement for Pax. I'm going to go slight hot take and say I love Ragnar. Love him. But if I'm to compare his character type, it's basically him or Pax. They both do it amazing, but Pax gets the edge. And because Ragnar's awesome, he's just a % less awesome than Pax was. That's
also
that's
how he came into the story of like literally. It almost felt like, because I know Pierce Brown killed Pax in the first book by taking the name out of the hat.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
And so well, I guess Pax dead, and he killed him off. And then next book kind of goes,
I need a Pax.
I kind of need a Pax here. The story is in desperate need of a Pax, and so he wrote in Ragnar.
And he did a great job, but
he did a good job. Yeah, it's great, but
also he's against Octavia. And Phil, what do you think of these? We got Octavia Owloon versus Ragnar. I didn't mean to start this off negative Ragnar, because that's
I am a little bit bewildered about the Ragnar slander here, or slight slander. Because honestly, I loved when he was on the page, and I love his kind of transformation and proof that what Darrow is trying to achieve can be possible. It gives him, the razor. That's a very heartwarming moment. And, Ragnar is obviously a beast in his own right, fighting. And it's very, very interesting to watch from that perspective. But I never really thought of that, the Pax replacement. And I actually, now that I do think about it, I think you guys are 100% right. But personally, I preferred Ragnar. I think Darrow should name his next ship Ragnar, and his next kid Ragnar, and his next boat and all that. But I actually do need to give Octavia some credit. I think she is. Who does she remind me? She kind of reminds me of that character from Star Wars, the decrepit looking, looks like a raisin kind of. I can't think of his name.
Palpatine or Snoke? Yeah,
I think Palpatine. I don't know. Maybe I imagine Octavia looks, but I just think she's obviously another person who's kind of like the puppeteer, and her scenes when she had the scorpion thing, telling the truth and it biting her. I just thought all that was very tense and very suspenseful, and those scenes were always enjoyable to read. So it is a tough matchup, but for me personally, I got to go against the Ragnar slander and go with my boy Ragnar.
Oh, I'm still voting Ragnar here.
I am just because I may have voted Ragnar with you all, but I think I'm going to go with Octavia.
Yeah.
Just because everything after her death, all the stuff with books, 4 and on, we get more context of like how actually effective Octavia was as a ruler. And you see how difficult this whole ruling the galaxy is, and all the plans within plans she has.
She was only there because Aja. Nobody wanted to mess with her.
True.
That's the only reason she had powers, because Aja was like loyal to her to a fault. But you're right, she did.
Well, we learning more and more about like the weird mental technique that she taught. That she was a master of, and that she's taught. Yeah, the mind's eye. Clearly, she had these plans within plans, and just. So I liked all of that, all the stuff we're learning about, all the designs that Octavia had in reserve and ultimately wasn't able to use. I think is interesting compared to Ragnar. But
I'll put Ragnar over the edge. I just don't think he's making it super far in this list, unless you convince us otherwise, Phil, because Octavia was not a bad character, no. But I'll give Ragnar as well. because we got 2 more matchups left before we're in the 16. And we have a couple of important ones here. We have one. Okay, this is the less important one. Quinn versus Orion. Quinn versus Orion. And do you guys remember Quinn? You don't remember Rich? Do you remember Quinn, Phil?
Yes.
Yeah.
She is Roke's girl, right?
Was Cassius's girl at one point.
Cassius's girl? Okay.
What wasn't?
Well, no. Is it Roke? Her death, I forget.
I thought Quinn was with Cassius. No? Oh my goodness.
Or maybe she was just friends with Roke, and maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Quinn Red Rising. Let's double check this while we're talking. Okay. Quinn was with double checking now. At the Institute, she and Cassius were romantically involved. She would play with his hair and laugh at his jokes. Yeah. Seems
so was she just in the first book?
Oh yeah, I think she died in the first. Nope, she died in her death caused Roke's grief.
I think this is our answer though for who's going to win.
Yeah, let's just.
I think this is enough deliberation here.
All right, you're not wrong. Orion did have a cooler death scene cooler in the fact that it was she just went with a statement.
Yeah,
she went ham.
And
Darrow had to make a tough decision. And that was crazy.
She was always fun in the first trilogy as well. Of just her attitude was great as well. So a different blue. Like she was another example similar to Ragnar of Darrow's coalition actually is working. The whole rigidity of the color hierarchy lets people like Orion fall through the cracks of Orion is a very talented individual, and yet because she is a blue, but she's slightly less blue than the other blues in attitude and personality. And so Darrow capitalizes. It's fun, but
we'll slam it on Orion, and then the next one, this is the last of the round, and then we're getting into the real matchups. Virginia versus Diomedes. Oh, shoot. Oh,
I want to hear Richard's thoughts on Diomedes here. Richard, you gotta sway us here.
Guys, okay, I don't know thoughts here, but oh no.
I'm gonna come right out of the gate. Right out of the gate. We don't have Virginia's POV in Era 2 stuff is like not all the way there. You know what I mean? It's not her time to shine yet.
What do you mean by that?
We've clearly not gotten enough of her. Like it's been mostly Darrow. Like she's gonna have a good conclusion at the end. You know what I mean? Like the cool Virginia stuff is coming, but it's not here yet. Like we got some cool stuff, but not the same. I don't know. I'm waiting for the epic conclusion of Virginia versus Venus, Atlantia. Like it's going to be Virginia, Atlantia. It's going to be epic, but we don't have that yet. Diomedes, though. Diomedes is the man. He is the ideal of what like an action. Look, if we have this whole color hierarchy system, you want every gold to be a Diomedes, and things probably wouldn't have revolted. You know, like probably would have been not great, but pretty okay. The oppression would have been slightly less bad.
It would have been a lowercase o.
Yeah.
It's just oppression. It's
instead
not
of capital
oppression.
O, it's oppression.
Yeah.
Look at a U. Instead of a full O, it's a U. Like just oppression.
It's like oppression. A UH. It's you're
Yeah, technically, but also
Phil, are we off base?
No, you know what? I thought that was incredibly educational, a scholarly review, and I couldn't agree anymore.
Glad to know. Wait, so Phil, where are you leaning with when it comes to Virginia Mustang versus Diomedes? This is a brutal matchup to have in the first round.
It's a tough matchup. But I don't know. I guess for me, if I'm looking back and trying to remember reading, I didn't always have the most fun reading Mustang. I feel like a lot of it is like kind of the politicking, which for me as a reader, still kind of like the action. You know, I prefer the action at this stage of my reading career. So I do kind of lean Diomedes because he is just like this humble dude who's, you know, kind of does right by what he believes, but doesn't do it, to Richard's point, in a way that is gruesome or brutal as other people. And all the Rim kind of golds have that sort of personality. He's kind of the golden boy of that, versus his sister, who is kind of wild. So it's interesting how he is the way he is. But yeah, I guess I got to go. It is a tough one because Virginia is so vital to the story, but I feel like I want to say Diomedes with this one.
Do you agree, Rich?
What do you think?
These are both in my top characters for Red Rising. These are both up there, so that's the tough part.
I want to hear what you have to say. I'll be last.
Virginia Mustang. So I don't agree with what you said about the second part, where I think her defending the moon or Phobos, was it? Yeah, Phobos, and she has her point of view chapters, and I'm invested, and she's more of the politicking, intrigue, and also her relationship with Darrow. Well, I guess what really gets me with Virginia is the whole situation with Darrow on Mercury and Virginia's attempts to send people to Mercury to save him, but also realizing she can't. And so her being in that position where she has to act in one way against her husband's interests, but wants to help her husband, but ultimately decides that the best thing to do is to halt that progress at the moment. Just that contemplation right there.
Also,
is just
comparing her to Victra is interesting. A Victra going like, what are you doing? Why aren't you trying to save Darrow? Like, hey, I kind of have like a whole...
Guys, I can't do this.
A republic to lead?
You both actually need to agree because I can't decide. Both of you need to agree. I cannot make a decision. These two characters are both top 5 characters in Red Rising.
I could be swayed because now I'm looking at like the whole history of Mustang from like the wee years of Red Rising and you know nuts. Them, you know, her healing Darrow and then him telling her he's a red, and that whole exchange and the kind of the emotion that's tied in that. It's easy to forget about the first trilogy and all that development when we move into the next trilogy.
Oh, so, God, not to mention. Sorry, Phil. Go. Yeah.
No. Go ahead.
I'm just thinking too of like Virginia and Jackal's relationship and the Abomination's relationship is so freaking fascinating. That's why I'm one of the. I'm an Abomination defender just because it adds. A lot of people don't like that. I love it. 1, because I get more Jackal stuff, and then 2, just the twisted relationship between Jackal and Virginia is so incredible. It is awesome to read.
I think is so good, and I'm hoping it goes in this kind of direction. I don't think for me it doesn't matter where it actually ends. I just hope it explores it.
Yeah,
I thought it was really tragic in the first trilogy, Virginia seeing that ultimately her parents and her failed the Jackal, and how much he really suffered and needed a real parental figure to lead him on the right path, that he actually had some severe problems and she wasn't there for him and always in this competitive mode. And she now in hindsight sees how she failed him, and you know, she pulls on the feet and kills her own brother and realize like it's a tragedy. Like if she could go back, she would want to do him better. And now she does have that opportunity with the Abomination of it's quite literally a do-over of, okay, you have your, like, how are you going to do it differently? Are you going to be able to save your brother?
But isn't she kind of got like mental real estate in the Abomination? She knows that he was raised by Lilith, right?
Yeah, you got it.
He's like, it's just he's a different person than the Jackal. So I guess I don't know, if I'm looking back, it's like she's more so kind of taking advantage of this Abomination, no?
Oh, she is. She sees the position, but thing is, she always had that position. She knows it from the Jackal of the Jackal always not maybe looked up to her as, I mean, yes, partly. looked up to Virginia, was always competitive with Virginia, respected Virginia, and wanted to beat her. And now the Abomination has that same thing in him. He sees all the stuff that Lilith is trying to show, and then ultimately Virginia won. She beat him, and so ultimately the Abomination has the ultimate proof of, Virginia was better than me, and so I need to improve. And there's a twisted relationship there that I want to see explored.
Guys, I'm gonna force a vote. You guys have to decide this for me. Come on, please agree. Do you guys where are you going between Virginia or Diomedes?
I'll vote for Diomedes.
See, after that conversation, I was like, maybe I'll go Mustang.
Are you going? You know what?
Do it.
I kind of want to go Mustang now.
Oh,
I think Richard voting for Diomedes, he actually made me want to vote for Mustang.
Yes.
You're going Virginia?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, keep things interesting.
I'll go Virginia.
Oh.
I'll go Virginia.
All right.
The only edge is like, okay, we also got her in the first trilogy, and I loved her there. I don't even want to think about it. It's
I think that's kind of where I ended up. Like, I literally had like a roll of memories with Virginia in the first trilogy, and I was like, okay, actually, maybe I spoke too soon.
All right, we got Sweet 16 time, so we're getting down to we'll push these forward, and we'll see who's actually the best character, because we got Volga versus Severo.
Volga.
Severo.
I say Severo.
Severo. No.
Phil, let's shut this down right now.
Volga is best girl. She is our sweet summer child.
Look at that. We got 2 for Severo.
No.
1 for Volga.
No, we will debate this.
And submit.
We will no.
Severo.
I'm voting no on Severo every single time after this.
We'll actually have a discussion on the next one. No way he's beating Severo. No way he's beating
We should have had discussion there, because Volga's the best.
Oh, this is actually an interesting one. Similar-esque characters, and that we get, not similar page time, but we get them both in just the first trilogy. Aja versus Lorne Au Akros. How are we feeling about Aja versus Lorne?
Aja.
I'm also thinking Aja. Yeah.
I like to what you guys are saying about Octavia. Like, she is, I do feel like Aja just like a looming shadow over Octavia that people were terrified of. Like, she was the reason a reason why she had so much power. Aja was great in a sense of character.
And I know it's not even, we're not even saying who would beat who, but doesn't Lorne even say that Aja's the one that could have maybe took her in a fight? Doesn't he say something about that? Even Aja.
She definitely could. I feel like she might have been the best fighter in the history of this universe. Like, I mean, from what we've seen, from like the proofs in the pudding, from what we've read, we haven't seen what old ass Lorne's done, to be honest. So we don't really know.
You just called Michael Jordan alone.
I actually do. This is a point to bring up.
Yeah.
I found it interesting with Darrow's progression arc of or not his progression, but his fighting style of him learning the whatever
Willow's Way was
Willow's
that later
Way
on
that they
early?
taught with it. And before, no one could beat Lorne. But Lorne had this air of mystery around him. He didn't teach too many students. He kept it secret. When he fought, there's not like a ton of recordings of him fighting, but
it's in black and white, really slow.
But do you know what I mean? Of like, his mystery kept him on top. Of no one could train against him because like he's mysterious. But because Darrow was just fighting everyone, there's so many recordings of how he fights.
That's how Lorne fights. Yeah.
Darrow realized like, oh, actually, everyone's now prepared to fight me.
Yeah.
Everyone's learned how to fight the Whispering Willow and all. Like, Lorne's fighting, like, Lorne would not win.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Like, if he was suddenly brought back to life, Lorne loses almost every fight now.
He's like, how does everybody know my secret?
How does everyone prepare to fight me? And so now Darrow's like, I have to completely relearn everything because...
Yeah.
So we're all going Aja here?
Yeah.
All right, we got a 3-0.
At least I am.
Yeah, me too.
I am too.
The next matchup we have is our Whoa, it's a family affair. It's Cavax and Daxo versus Pax. I think we're all still going Pax, right?
No. Why?
I wouldn't say so.
I wouldn't say Pax.
I really like Daxo, or is it Kavix? Kavix is the dad, right?
Yes.
Kavix is the dad, and Daxo is the brother.
Damn,
I
misjudged.
really like the Telemanuses. Really grew on me. I just love that family. I want to be at their Thanksgiving. I feel like they're just a fun family, and Kavax is this big kind of oafy but smart dude with Sophocles, running around, and his relationship with Lyria was really interesting. Daxo's involvement wasn't, as much involvement, but kind of gained a little bit of relevance. He was probably the least interesting of all the Telemanuses, in my opinion. And I guess going back to Pax, he's just our golden boy. And at the end of the day, we don't get enough page time with him for me to say that I don't like him more than Kavix. I really like Kavix.
That's actually, Kavix is you just want to be a part of their family. I like that Thanksgiving reference because they do just feel comforting the way they treat Virginia. I mean, Pax wouldn't be who Pax is without the family he had, too.
True.
Phil, you convinced me. I mean, do you also think those two?
I think so.
I was rash with that. I do agree. So Kavix and Daxo.
You're getting caught up in the Darrow mindset right now.
I was too impulsive. Yes. All right, we're going them two. Because next one we have is Lysander versus Tactus. Oh.
I mean,
no. Well, we'll discuss Lysander next.
Moved on.
Let's
Lysander. Okay. Yeah. Next. Darrow versus Victra.
Darrow
route. Yeah.
I mean,
you guys think Darrow?
Is Darrow.
To talk a little bit more about Darrow, I guess. I mean, he just reinvents himself to what Richard was saying. Like, again, I'll compare him to an NBA player. He's LeBron. He's starts at a young 20 into the league. He's around 35, and he's just reinvented his fighting style along the way. He's gotten a little bit less. I mean,
he goes through his golf phase. Is that appropriate?
Well, no. That's Jordan.
MJ.
Jordan, got it.
Rich tried to do a sports.
I tried to do a sports.
He tried to do one of the sports balls.
Yeah, but no, Darrow was obviously.
Wait, and it was baseball that Jordan did. Sorry, did you say
Jordan
golf?
Does play. Oh, he does golf. He does golf,
but he wasn't good at it. That's why
the baseball. Yeah,
he wasn't good at baseball. Wasn't he also just bad at golf too, or?
No, I have no idea how good at golf he is.
He was famously bad at baseball.
Yeah,
got
baseball.
it.
But yeah, Phil, where are we going with that?
I guess I was just saying, Darrow. We do see an evolution with him. Obviously, starting the Republic, the whole Rising. He's just obviously so just impulsive a lot of the time, and he's the whole reason we're reading this story. I just feel like this isn't even a competition with Darrow. I actually really like the character. As flawed as he can be sometimes, he makes for an interesting guy to follow.
Yeah, completely agree. He's the main character for a reason. He's actually an interesting character.
All right, we're going Darrow 3-0. Sorry, Victra. Got to do it to you. Because our next one is Nero Augustus versus Atlas Aura.
This is also another easy one, I think.
You're going to say Atlas?
Yeah.
You're both going to say Atlas? I'll give a pity vote to Nero.
You're going to give a pity vote to Nero?
I'll give a pity vote. If you two are going 2-on-1 with me, Atlas is great and all, but because I thought the Volsung Fa thing was kind of lame, I was like, that was Atlas's plan. And I'm like, Atlas. Yeah. And also
Atlas just is the lapdog. That's all he is. Of just, I don't know. You thought he was a little bit more interesting of like had his own plans, and ultimately him just being, he's just there for, what is the gold's name on Venus?
Atlantia,
that was it. Like, just him being Atlantia's lapdog is.
Mm-hmm. And instead of Atlantia and Atlas, it's instead of Octavia Aja, it's Atlantia to Atlas is kind of the comparison. Like, is that a correct analogy? Would you guys say is Atlas the Aja of this new era, or the second part?
I guess, but I feel like Atlas is a little more cerebral than, or is that, did I even say that word right? I'm trying to say a big word. Cerebral.
No, I think it's pronounced slippery or whatever you say.
Yeah, he's got a slippery tongue. That's all I know. But yeah, I do feel like, I mean, he does have his own like machinations that he does. I guess I guess he is a little bit of a puppet in a way, but I do feel like he, he's a little bit different than Aja. But I guess it's a next gen Aja if we're thinking about moving on to the kind of relationship, the new relationship that we have with the bad guys.
Yeah, I mean, you guys gonna go Atlas? I will go Nero for this one. Okay, you're going.
Yeah,
you're
I'll
going
go
Atlas?
Atlas.
Okay, Atlas moves on. We got a 2-1 though. I want to be clear. I was with you, Nero. All right, our next one is the Jackal versus Ragnar.
Another easy one?
yeah. Not quite as easy in my opinion, but pretty easy.
Not as easy as before, but like,
the
Jackal.
I still don't think we have to pull out the Jackal defense yet.
No, we don't.
I still think this one sweeps enough to where we should save our Jackal stuff.
I agree.
Right?
Jackal, honestly, strong chance of going all the way to the end, especially because you guys snubbed Volga for me.
He's a
This is Richard's revenge tour right now. Is the Jackal campaign.
We just gotta say he's going Final Four no matter what. I mean, okay, we're moving.
It's looking like it.
Okay, we got 3.
Shout out Ragnar though.
But even though you're saying shout out Ragnar, do you want to say any parting words since this is it? He's going away forever.
No.
Pax ripoff.
This is the last one in the Sweet 16. Then we have the Final 8. We have Orion versus Virginia. Okay. Orion only got there because it was a bad first-round matchup against Quinn. We're going Virginia.
Yeah, no.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Virginia 3.
Of course.
Oh, my God. I'm not looking forward to this next. Oh, shoot. I can't look. Oh.
Wow, what a matchup.
That's okay.
Very interesting matchup.
We're in the Elite 8. Every single one now is going to be absolutely gut-wrenching. We have
not the first one.
Actually, right. Even you're saying that. Okay, we've got Severo versus Aja.
Yeah, it's Severo.
Richard, why don't you? Yeah, I love it.
Actually, yeah, no.
I thought it was gonna be some competition here.
No, you know what? Just because of you guys, I'm not voting for Severo. Going for Aja this time, just out of spite.
Oh, we're going Severo, right? We got to go Severo for this one.
Aja made it pretty far though. I gotta credit to her.
Props, Elite 8. It was a strong run. Didn't expect that. Okay, 2-1. Here's the next one we've got. Oh, sorry, I didn't swap screens on that. Boom. Next one here is this is actually going to be real tough. The Telemanus duo, Cavex and Daxo versus Lysander. That prompts discussion on that one. Does it? I think a little bit. You're going easy Lysander in your head?
Yeah, that's an easy Lysander. He's a far more interesting character.
You guys just reminded me how much I love that family last time we talked about them. I mean, it's so lovable.
They're the idea. The amount of terrible golds you see and just how cruel and evil they can be. You see Cavex and you see the relationship they have of like, oh, that's actually kind of what gold should be in a more soft-hearted version of like Diomedes. Diomedes is like the honorable gold of like a fair, just leader, one that actually, starves himself along with his people with the honorable position. Like, oh, look at that. He puts himself on rations if he puts his people on it. It's like, okay, cool. And ultimately siding with Darrow because like, hey, our entire system of government is because like it was based on the fact like we rule because we should, and like that comes with the responsibility. We've clearly failed in our responsibility, so we have to abdicate power. It's like, fair enough. You failed the social contract, so next party in line. So I like all that, but Cavex is the softer side of that thing of you see they're not all heartless monsters. They can actually be quite kind to each other. Yes. So, but yeah, no, it's still Lysander.
Phil, what are you feeling?
I agree with that. I mean, again, big fan of the Telemanuses. Wish they would invite me over to hang. Even Thrax is cool. So yeah, they're cool, but Lysander's, again, we just see him from being like a little boy and his like, progression into his adulthood and all the intricacies of that, like we get so much time with him. I feel like we got to go Lysander because of his development.
You guys are right, but I don't want you to be. You know, it's
if Lysander wins, that's gonna suck for all of us.
Oh, that'd be a great. No, that's something.
The ultimate Red Rising.
I'm giving
Red Rising
a split vote here because to Telemanus, I'm gonna give a split vote. You guys are both voting Lysander.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Go for the Telemanuses though. Pity
now
vote.
We have no discussion. It's Darrow versus Atlas Al Ra. How did Atlas get by? I thought I didn't want him against Nero. You guys did this. Atlas, Darrow versus Nero would have been so much closer.
What?
No. Are we gonna just skip this one? No discussion. Darrow over Atlas.
Yeah,
of course.
Darrow.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't talked much about Darrow or the Jackal, and I'm imagining maybe that is the championship match, and that's when we talk about them.
we're looking. Actually, this next match determines who does face Darrow because this is the last of the Elite Eight before the Final Four.
This is the hard one.
This is where everyone. Yeah, the Jackal versus Virginia. Boys. It has to come. Sibling rivalry. In the books, Virginia came out on top. Who comes out on top when it comes to the best Red Rising character, as in who is the best developed, who feels the most real. And I'm just going to jump the gun as much as I just defended. Virginia's incredible. Oh my God. I've got to defend the Jackal on this one. I think Jackal goes up. I mean, is there a disagreement first? Because we got to discuss what do we think, what makes a great character. But any thoughts from you two? Who are you leaning towards gut reaction? And then maybe we can change each other's minds.
I know my answer, but I'm curious to hear you guys duke it out a little bit.
Are we going to duke it out? Do you think Jackal or Virginia?
I mean, my initial gut is like the Jackal.
Okay.
Still, here's the sad thing is no scene in all of Red Rising, the entire Red Rising saga, has topped the Jackal hand cutting scene. That's it. That's the scene I still think about of just that's a villain. That is like the villain of villains of Darrow just in his head going, oh crap. Oh shit, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have let him live. I can't let him live.
That is a top villain moment. Yes.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I
and
love
the way he goes out too. I mean, just nefarious.
He is the villain of villains, and it's what I want in a villainous character. Virginia's great, but especially like if we're gonna meta game this of like if it's whoever goes up against Darrow next. I think Darrow versus Virginia, I think it's a much easier decision of like Darrow. He's main character. I think as a character, he goes through more interesting stuff. I think it's a pretty clear cut between Virginia and Darrow. But Jackal and Darrow? I don't know. So that's, I think, harder.
We're both leaning Jackal. Any thoughts, Phil?
Yeah, I'm going Jackal. I mean, I'm just like thinking of his death scene when Darrow cuts his tongue out and atomic bombs going off everywhere. Like he's just wild and so unpredictable, and he's always 2 steps ahead. It's just one of the best villains I've ever read. I haven't read that much, but he's going to be tough to beat in the future.
Oh, he will. He is one of my. I think he's my favorite villain ever. So 3-0. We are in the final 4.
It's tough. Yeah, this is like the first series I read last year, and it's going to be tough to beat everyone's compared to the Jackal now in future book series, and it's going to be tough.
That's going to be very difficult. Yes.
Yeah.
We're in the final 4. We got to start with Several versus Lysander.
Oh, okay.
So our final 4 is Several, Lysander, Darrow, and the Jackal. That's who it got down to.
This is not even out of spite against you guys, but I'm still voting Lysander against Several. I think it's far more interesting. I'm far more excited to read some more Lysander chapters than Several chapters. Lightbringer to me kind of annoyed me greatly with Several. He was not the best. Here's the thing. It's strange because on paper, Severo has the most amount of justification to be moody. Like, you get it. He's lost his kid. He's been separate. Like, totally understand. But real annoying to read. I understand the whole, like, how he plays off of Darrow in this story, but I think especially, like, if we're just comparing these of, like, side characters and what they bring out of Darrow, I think Era 2, Lysander is a better foil or, mirror to Darrow than Severo.
Phil, what do you think there?
I mean, I guess piggybacking off a little bit, like when I think of Severo, my most like fond memories with him is just how like new of a character he was coming into the first Red Rising, and just him like howling, in his wolf skin, coming out of nowhere to save Darrow. Like it was like so unexpected. And who is this guy? Is this like scrappy guy who you want to cheer for? He's the last pick in, the house draft or whatever it was. And he, worked his way up through grit and being, just
he's the wild child.
He's a wild child. I'm literally trying to think of another synonym to wild, but that's, I guess, the best way you could say it. But I will say in like the Era 2, where he's kind of settling into being a dad and having responsibilities, being a much better dad than Darrow. I agree. It could be a little more boring to read in that innately kind of his disagreements with Darrow in that, and how he led when he was, controlling the Sons of Ares and in that, like when he was Ares. So I totally see where Richard is coming from that perspective. And on the flip side, like Lysander does just get like I would say he's one of the more interesting parts of Iron Gold. Obviously, like that, again, I didn't enjoy that, but between Lyria, Ephraim, and him and Darrow, he's on the top end of what was interesting for me. Just to like learn why am I reading about this guy and what relevance he's going to have, and having Cassius involved. But his trajectory of interest and growth just goes up throughout the second 3 books so much. And again, where now he is so impactful, and it's kind of cool to see his transformation. And again, his like power of the mind's eye. He has a lot going on with him, and just always interesting to read directly from the guy who is going against our protagonist that we know doesn't always make the right choices. So it's very just interesting in general, and it makes me want to go against my boy Severo, because if we're talking about a championship match here, Severo versus Darrow, like what Richard said, if we're going to kind of game this, I think Lysander probably has a better shot at taking down the king.
I unfortunately agree with both of you. I think Lysander takes down Severo, and I am so excited to read Red God just to see exactly what... The best thing about Lysander, maybe we should save a little bit more because it's going to be a tough matchup in the finale. Or I think, this brings us to the finale, right? So I'll save it for the finale because we'll bring Lysander forward. I think we're all in agreement. We have a 3-0 sweep against Severo. Rich finally had his due, and you finally got your boon.
I will say, Volga would have beaten Lysander.
Now we have Darrow versus the Jackal. All things can come out here.
I'm
Gloves
hoping we have some disagreement here. I think we need it. Phil,
we've talked a lot about
off?
We've talked a lot about the Jackal. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on Darrow. Let's get some Darrow praise or slander.
I'll jump out and say this. My vote is unequivocally 100% behind the Jackal. Not, and
is it the slippery tongue?
I will fight you. Yes, it's slippery. I am behind the Jackal, and here's why. Darrow is the reason that I love Red Rising. He's who I started with. I'm so curious and invested in his entire character journey. But Darrow, for me, there's peak Darrow, but there's also like sometimes he's less interesting. There are sometimes he takes a backseat where I'm more interested in the other characters around Darrow. He's not always the attention grabber. Now, I would say the first trilogy, he had all the momentum, like Red Rising, Golden Sun, going into Morning Star. He was the presence and the driving force. His impulsiveness, his rash decisions made the plot move like a torpedo, and his lessons about leadership, and then again impulsiveness coming into the later book, seeing him become a father. He's our protagonist. Okay, there's infinite things we could say about Darrow, why he's amazing. However, there's some slower times, like in, I would say Iron Gold, which is I would say in Morning Star, which is controversial. I didn't like Darrow's reaction and his character arc in that book specifically. And then in Iron Gold, I definitely didn't like his character arc. However, I think in every other book, it's amazing, nails it. I feel like he's Darrow, but there's a return to form that happens in Dark Age and Lightbringer where I'm like, okay, that's Darrow. He's grown up. But there was that middle point in Morningstar going into Iron Gold for me where I lost a bit of that of who makes Darrow, or more so what happened in Morningstar for me. And maybe this is where you guys would disagree, or people would disagree. But I saw Darrow as this different kind of character of I guess what happened in Iron Gold in the latter half of the books, I was expecting Morningstar to end or have a lesson in a different form for Darrow. It ended a little bit too sweet for me, for somebody like Darrow to just kind of haul ass, win the revolution, and then yes, of course, there was a lot of death involved, but it ended very happy. And I expected a character like Darrow, who was imprisoned for and tortured by the Jackal for an entire book, and this rageful character, to not come out completely, like by the end of the book, able to recover. I would have expected a much darker, like a Dark Age Darrow that we got. That's the Dark Age Darrow. I finally got who I wanted to see from what I would have expected after being imprisoned and beaten and spit on and just rage. That Darrow form. So anyways, I'm rambling off just to say Darrow, I love him so much. And when he has those moments that you just want to pump your fist and go, Cassius, I will have my boon, or whatever he does say in that scene, and kicks off the plate and steps onto the table. You see him with an iron rain. All these epic moments are because of Darrow. So you feel the adrenaline. He has all of that. And Rich, jump in.
And you still vote Jackal.
I 100% vote Jackal. And the reason Jackal, he's the greatest villain of all time. We already talked about the scene in book one. A subtler thing about the Jackal, and obviously his relationship with Virginia is incredible, but the subtler thing about the Jackal that I like in Golden Sun is how Darrow notices that the Jackal's speech is starting to mimic Darrow's. It's just a one for one. He's like looking and the Jackal is so twisted in his way of trying to manipulate and win the game that he admires his adversary that he wants to torture and kill just so he can defeat them in the game. And so the Jackal he is the villain's villain. There will never be a better. Maybe I'll read something, but the Jackal to me, I think going into Iron Gold, even though I had issues with the plot and some characters, whatever, there was a presence missing in Iron Gold going forward, going, okay, who's gonna take the spot? And eventually it's Lysander. But it took a while to build up Lysander to an adversary. It took the Jackal a sentence. So you cannot, all tongues must utter whatever the Bible quote is, okay? All tongues must confess the Jackal is the greatest of all time.
Phil, where are you standing here?
That's my monologue. Yeah, Phil, come on, monologue.
I think that was a fantastic ramble. But
it was mostly about Darrow.
Yeah. I thought it was, but very, very, very true in all parts. We've kind of gushed about the Jackal a lot on this, just him being like the peak villain, and I don't know who's going to top that for me in books or even TV or cinema. And I can't wait to see it on screen. It is almost bittersweet that we get the Abomination in the second series, because it is the Jackal, but not quite the Jackal. He ain't the same guy. Because the first one was, uncomparable. I think for me, I agree. I do think in Morning Sun and obviously Iron Gold, we do get a little bit of a different Darrow. I always kind of attributed it to, obviously the trauma he endured being, captured for so long.
Mm-hmm.
That we really dialed in on that. And that was honestly really odd to read in this book and see Darrow have like that weakness, the mental kind of like battles that he had to go through. And I feel like he comes out of that in a different way than someone like Victra, who just comes out swinging. So that was interesting to read. And I do agree, like Dark Age, I think is actually probably maybe my favorite book in this series. The one that I like crushed the fastest. I know Lightbringer's amazing, but like Dark Age was so dark and so twisted and so action packed. I just like couldn't put it down. And I do feel like that's when Darrow was kind of like in his groove. He was in his bag. So I feel like, you know, he was just doing Darrow stuff. And I gotta, although I do love the Jackal, I guess I'm just being like a homer here, but I gotta go Darrow because he is just, you know, we just get his point of view in the first three, and then even in the second trilogy, he is the first or the second most interesting POV that we get, in my opinion, throughout the second trilogy too. So he's obviously the most important in the first or second in the second trilogy, and we just get so much time with him that he was really the only thing to get me through Iron Gold, honestly, him and Lysander. So love Darrow, got to go with Darrow. It's a tough one though.
Rich, you are the decider.
I
you
always
hold
love
the
this
power.
position. Oof, it's good.
Thumb up or down? Decide, Emperor. Oh no.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Darrow, ultimately, we get the most page time with him, and so the most opportunity for high highs and the most opportunity for low lows. Like, there's more mistakes that can happen with your main protagonist than your villain that has far fewer scenes. But Darrow does a lot of heavy lifting, but there is, if I take out the Abomination and keep him to books, 1, 2, and 3, if I'm just judging on our individual ranking of like irreplaceable character, I think I've seen many Darrow archetypes. Like, Darrow's done incredibly well, but he's more replaceable than the Jackal. And so I'm going to vote with the Jackal.
That's how I did my rating too. Let's go. Phil, you came here just to be a guest and get shit on. We planned this all along.
Oh, damn, I got Jackal.
Let's go, Jackal.
I that's a great way to put it. I love Darrow. I love him as the protagonist. But you're right. I mean, the Jackal, we felt his absence in the, where he wasn't. And it wasn't until we got a more apt bad guy that we could feel kind of the juices from the first series again in Dark Age. And for a while, I guess that was Atalantia a little bit, but Lysander, I mean, but still wasn't quite the Jackal. So I'm not going to hate it, but it is what it is.
It had to happen at some point.
We can't have Darrow win this at the end of the day. This makes for good podcasting.
Of course. No, I'm excited for Lysander being the best character of Red Rising.
Well, now we are in the finale, and it is Lysander versus the Jackal. What does this say about us? The two characters that make it into our finale are the main villains of the series.
Here's the thing. Okay. I think this really does come down to Lysander is a far more interesting villain in the sense of we see their downfall. They have like some good intentions and then ultimately fail, like personal failures. Lysander does actually have genuinely good intentions and tries to do what he thinks is right. And then ultimately, because of personal failings, he takes the shortcut frequently and constantly makes what is the more politically prudent decision rather than what's right. Makes him a very interesting villain, but in some ways is pathetic. We've already seen him against Darrow, and he's the underdog for this entire story. He is the perpetual underdog. The Jackal's he is him. He is almost, until he loses, he is peak. I don't think there's ever a pathetic Jackal moment. Is there? Like, he even goes out pretty hardcore.
He goes out, yeah. banging, literally. But yeah, I guess I just had this question, like what happens if Lysander wins versus what would happen if kind of the Jackal, we saw the life of the Jackal when he was 35, and what does the society look like in that sense? Like, I feel like Lysander, to your point, if he wins, they're actually like better off than if the Jackal was to climb the ranks, honestly. I mean, maybe it would be more of the same of what we saw, but in a little more of a gruesome way. But I do think Lysander is almost like, I don't want to say like too normal. He's too much like a little brother, to Darrow, to kind of take seriously sometimes, and then he'll kind of impress you, like when he knocks Darrow off, in their little duel. Like, it's like, oh, okay. But with the Jackal, you actually feel like he doesn't need luck. He doesn't need any kind of like the cards falling in his favor. He can just one-on-one compete with Darrow, whether it is politicking or just being a crazy wild boy, honestly. Just cutting his hand off and doing crazy stuff like that.
Is the Jackal Severo if he had bad parents?
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah.
What do you value more in a character? Like their presence, or like just their charisma and presence on the page? Or do you value like the intrigue of it? Because how often do you get a story of the ultimate bad guy, the villain, is the constant underdog the entire time and still make that compelling? From the first book on, or I mean, I guess not really the first book, but he's either a pawn of some other political game.
I have an answer to your question,
but he's still intimidating, especially now. He's going, oh my God, he's actually. That's weird. That's a weird position to be in.
In the very first round of 32, we all voted. It was a 2-1 split. You two voted for Lysander. I voted for Apollonius because I thought Apollonius had more presence. But you guys were valuing the story. But also Apollonius had a much smaller role than the Jackal does. So it's like how much Jackal's definitely more of a presence and more page time than Apollonius was. But it's an extreme version of, we all know Apollonius has that dialogue. We know, wow, he just comes off the page. Again, how much do you value that? So I'm stealing Rich's question. How much do you value that presence?
It's a great question because we do get, obviously, the inner workings of our antagonist in this sense with Lysander. We get his thoughts throughout 3 books, which we don't get with the Jackal. We're not in his head, so he just kind of, we see him from afar, and we're like, oh, he's the big bad. But with Lysander, we can get his thoughts behind it and his why he's getting to this point. So it is, in that sense, more intriguing that we do kind of look at him in a sense that like, oh, he's like the little bro. But in reality, the Jackal was a little bro to Mustang for a while. We just don't see that. We just see like what he ultimately became as this big bad. So it's a great question. And I guess in terms of the story, who's like the more, I guess, interesting character? For me, it probably, I guess, would be Lysander. I mean, although the Jackal is
vote for Lysander,
the bad guy, the Lysander's still in the game, and we're gonna get him for another book or two. I hate myself that I'm voting Lysander to be the best character in the series for sure.
Well, I just think we need to have this in the comments, or maybe on, like, this is in the Twitter, like we tweet at you of, Phil got books. Phil thinks Lysander is the best character in Red Rising. That's
the best person.
Best person in Red Rising. Well,
Rich, I'm gonna give you. I like to feign giving you power.
Ah, yes.
My favorite character in Red Rising, without a doubt. You've heard me say this. I mean, could you tell by my excitement behind the Jackal? It's the Jackal. So it's 1-1. Phil, I'm sorry to give this over to Rich, but Rich,
hold on. I don't want to say he's my favorite character. I guess I'm just saying, like, in terms of
that's what you're saying.
That's exactly what you said.
I'm not
mean?
saying my favorite though. I mean like the most enjoyable to read, I guess is what I'm saying.
Then we get
Well,
shit.
I guess. Well, so are we talking? I guess this is a difference of kind of opinion on this. Who's more enjoyable to read, or who is like my favorite? I guess it could mean the same thing. I don't want to flip flop, but obviously I enjoyed reading the Jackal a lot. But I think Lysander, to see his transformation was really interesting and still enjoyable for me. And I guess that's why I got to keep it there.
Who's more irreplaceable, the Jackal or Lysander? The Jackal being one of the best villains of just presence and personality. His onstage presence just top notch. But ultimately, what is he? He's twisted bad guy. Like, there are twisted bad guys out there. Maybe not as good, but there are like just your twisted bad guys. Lysander? Like, you don't get his type of story very often, and being his personality and character is slowly developed. Yeah,
you do get a little bit.
You know what? Yeah, you're right. He's Paul. He's
Paul,
basically Paul.
He's Paul Atreides in a little different way.
Yeah, that was enough for me. The Jackal.
I just need to pull him, dude.
Can I change my vote? The Jackal.
I don't want discount Paul.
Wait, I could have said that at any point, and then we could have gotten rid of Lysander.
Probably.
God, yeah, let's go, Checo.
Hey, I'm happy about this.
Yes.
Yeah, 3.
Our winner.
The flip flop of the century out of me
is the Jackal. You just said last minute, like, yeah. Let me change it.
Yeah. You know what? I don't want to be on record saying Lysander's the best. Let's go Jackal. I think Richard played mind games on me really quick about like making me like Lysander.
It just took saying like,
you love how much I pushed Lysander and then just
at the last second. Yeah. It's just pulled the rug right under. As soon as you heard Fears the Mind Killer, like, oh shit.
Yeah, he basically is. That's pretty replaceable.
Richard had the Jackal-esque slippery tongue, made me think that I wanted to vote for Lysander, and I'll never forgive you for that, honestly, Richard.
Fair enough. I still want to have that tweet of Phil thinks Lysander's the best Red Rising character.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, to finish up here, I want to ask you, Phil, who are your actual, because we determined in a vote here who the best character is. Just putting who's your favorite character, however you want to interpret that question. How would you put your top 5 characters in Red Rising? Would you say like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going, I just love seeing these people. That's my guy. That's my gal.
I would probably say Severo is number 1, just because of the joy that he brought me in the first trilogy. And maybe I'm just nostalgic and have a pea brain, but I still like reading them in the second trilogy. Darrow obviously is up there. I wouldn't say he's number 2. I don't know if I can give an order here. I really did like reading Ragnar. I just thought it was hilarious how he would, when he talked, it was in bold. I'd never really seen that before, and the audiobook made him sound cool, deep voiced and stuff. Was interesting to listen to. And I guess I like that kind of big guy who's kind of playing that Pax role. I feel like I want that, and I like that character. It kind of warms my heart a little bit. And that's probably why I like Cavex too. And then I'm trying to think of the kind of the last 2 here. Sophocles. Sophocles makes me smile every time he comes on the screen.
Yeah.
And did I say the Jackal?
Oh, of course. Yeah. There
Jackal
we go.
Lysander there?
Yeah. So like Lysander's like my 6th or 7th favorite.
Yeah.
I'm just yeah, I would say those are probably the top ones. Obviously, they're the main characters, but I do kind of enjoy reading Lysander. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, he keeps things interesting.
Yeah, for me, it is pretty closely to what our whole ranking here is. Like, it is the Jackal, Lysander, and then honestly, it's hard.
It gets hard.
Yeah. It gets hard. I think my number 5 is probably Darrow. That in between that,
Diomedes.
Yeah, Diomedes and then Cassius.
Oh my
That's
god,
fair.
I forgot about Cassius. We haven't talked about him in so long.
Oh,
Yeah.
he got taken out against Severo in round 1, so it was such a tragic start. Because you had to pick one of them.
It's tough. It really is. This is why we did this experiment, because it really is tough to pick like a top 5.
Yeah.
Crazy how Lysander ended up there and Cassius didn't.
Isn't it? Yeah. I feel like he had an easy path to victory there. It was just how the dice rolled.
Like his story is written. Yes, everything handed to him.
But everybody
he's a nepo baby.
Everybody who's watching at home, give Phil Got Books a subscribe. Check out his channel. He's got a ton of fun stuff.
You never said yours, Austin. Austin, you never said your top 5.
Oh, you check him out even more. He cares about my opinion. He's a great guy. He tosses it right back at you. I'm going The Jackal, number 1. I'm going. Can I say in no particular order, because that's tough right now.
Yeah.
The Jackal's up there. Lysander, Virginia. The
Minotaur.
I was going to, but I can't. I just can't justify it because there's too many good ones. So sorry. The Jackal. Lysander, Virginia, Diomedes, Darrow. That's who I'm going with.
Good lists.
But ask me on a different day, and it's
for real. Yeah,
I'm throwing Severo
this
in
is
there.
Hard.
Yeah, it's man. Red God cannot wait. I really hope that I don't know what he'll do with Red God as far as splitting into 2 books or doing one. We have no inside announcement, but Phil, you told us beforehand you do have a something from Pierce Brown, some updates for everybody back home.
Oh yeah, I was just FaceTiming with Pierce the other day. No, I just saw a clip on YouTube or something that said he was being told to maybe put it in 2 books, but he wants to do 1. I hope it's 1. I mean, I wouldn't mind if it's 2 at the end of the day. I'll read them both. So.
Yeah, who are we kidding, right? But everybody, go check out Phil Got Books. He was kind enough to sit here and aimlessly rank characters just to know we were getting to the Jackal all along. I mean, come on. This could have been 2 seconds, right? But Phil, thank you a bunch. This was our first ever character tournament ranking we've done, and it was we could only do it with a third person, so appreciate you jumping in.
Hey, I'm glad to come in here and give my 2 cents. It was a blast, and this is tough. This is really tough. I'd be curious to see what people say in the comments who their top 5s are, and see if it reflects where we got with our final 4 or top 8.
Yes, Rich, anything?
I just wish we kind of rigged the vote a little bit and had Darrow lose round 1. You know what I mean? Just to like piss people off.
I'm still bummed about Cassius. I'm still bummed about Cassius. I forgot he was a character. We haven't talked about him in so long.
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye.
Peace.